So Newcastle United were already talking about this game against Wolverhampton Wanderers on Sunday. International break now behind us, or certainly the England games are behind us in the UEFA Nations League. But I think, there's a lot to talk about in terms of selection. We're not just talking about Sandro Tonali. We will come to that very soon. But I think one of the big decisions, if not the biggest, is what Eddie Howe does with Kieran Trippier this weekend. Kieran Trippier is retired from England now. He's basically going to be in a position where he's going to have felt the benefit from training during the international break for the first time in a long time. No travelling around, an opportunity for him now to go into this game really fresh. And I think he will be at the forefront of Eddie Howe's mind in terms of his selection, because he can bring so much to the table. And in a game like this, he's going to have the know-how, he's going to have the knowledge, he's going to have the ability to help Newcastle maintain that unbeaten start. And it will not be lost on Eddie Howe. Where would he bring him in? That is another question. Obviously, his primary position is right back. Tino Livramento has had a steady start to the season. I wouldn't say it was, perfect, because obviously against Bournemouth he was taken off and replaced by Trippier, and Trippier did a very good job in the last away game for Newcastle. He steadied everything down, he calmed things down, and he helped Newcastle get a very important point. He'll now be hoping that he's involved in this game at Wolves in some capacity. So Eddie Howe will be thinking about that. Livramento over the international break also saying how he doesn't mind playing left back as long as he's on the pitch. So it's an option for Eddie Howe going into this weekend. And what we've seen with Sandro Tonali is that he's now capable of playing 90 minutes of football. He's done it twice now for his country, and Newcastle boss Eddie Howe will be feeling he's there or thereabouts in terms of starting a Premier League game now, and that's what he'd be looking for from Sandro Tonali going into this crucial game against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Who would be the person who makes way for him? That's what's been debated in the fan base. Obviously, a lot of people saying Sean Longstaff would be the one to go, but for me, I think that would be very unfortunate for Sean Longstaff, because in the last game, I think he really proved his worth. Very hard-working performance. We've seen it at Nottingham Forest as well in that game where he steps up and takes a penalty. He's a reliable figure for Newcastle these days, and he's a player who's got many Premier League games behind him now. He's one of the more experienced players. He's captained the team. There's no automatic thing that says he's going to be the one who makes way for Bruno Guimaraes. A lot of people have this concept about this dream trio and what it'll be like to see Joelinton, Bruno and Tonali in those three midfield berths. But two of those players have been on international break. I don't for a minute think Bruno won't start the game at Wolves, but I think it's going to be interesting to see that team sheet when it does land and what the future plans are for Eddie Howe and his midfield. He'll just be delighted that he's got the opportunity to rotate, give other people a chance. I spoke to him just before the international break, and he told me about how Joelinton can play in the 6 role, he can play in the 8 role, and he's been kind of pivoting between the two in several games this season. So a lot has to be said about that. I think really for Eddie Howe now, it's going to be a tough call. Someone's going to be disappointed. We're back to that territory now. Newcastle weren't there last season. There was players just walking back into the team, never healthy. But Eddie Howe now is in a position where someone's going to be disappointed. They're either going to be disappointed to be on the bench, or they're going to be disappointed not even to be in the matchday squad, which is something last season it wasn't even on the agenda for Eddie Howe and his squad because of all the injuries that had cut in. So lots of selection issues, if you want to call them issues. I think managers would call them a welcome headache. But I think for me, Eddie Howe, doesn't just have Tonali and Trippier to consider. There's Matt Targett as well, who's, he's back, he's fit, hasn't had an opportunity just yet, but he's going to feel that his Newcastle career is still alive and kicking. He hopes. He wants to get back on that pitch and show that he can be the number 1 left back at the club. And, he should be ambitious in that way, because last season was a bit of a disaster for him, really, picking up that injury away to Manchester United in the Carabao Cup, the hamstring. I don't even think he kicked the ball in the game. and we've barely seen him since. So it's been tough for him. He missed a lot of pre-season, but now he's back. He's sitting on the bench in games, but he'd be desperate to get an opportunity to impress Eddie Howe moving forward. But I think, yeah, the game against Wolves, one Newcastle should approach with confidence. Definitely have confidence, because Wolves are sitting there in the table. They've had a bad start. They conceded 6 goals against Chelsea in the last game, and now I think Eddie Howe really feels that he's going to be looking at this one and feeling it's an opportunity to extend that unbeaten run. He's got to look at it that way, and hopefully Newcastle are still sitting unbeaten on the Sunday night. Hopefully they're a little bit higher than 5th. And for all the off-the-field stuff that's been going on, the Paul Mitchell interview, I think on the field Newcastle can be pretty pleased with the position they're in now, and certainly one they can improve ahead of the weekend. So yeah, Eddie Howe facing the press on Friday. We'll be down there to bring you the latest from Newcastle's media centre. Hopefully Newcastle, as I say, will continue that great start to the season and continue to be a challenger for that top 4 spot.